May the 29th, that game will be live on ESPN Plus, 11:30 Eastern. Of course, these teams know each other well. Not only have they met in the league, but also the FA Cup this season, with Forest winning 2 of those encounters. Huddersfield, meanwhile, with a 1-0 win just before the New Year last year. Stewart, Robson, of course, on the call for that game, as we heard. Craig Burley with us as well. Robbo, Forest favourites going into the final?
Absolutely. They've got everything going their way at the moment. They're a better team. They've got a manager that's inspired. And remember, they were bottom of the table when Chris Hughton was sacked. He came in. They've had a great cup run. They've been brilliant in the league. They didn't play at their very best last night. Obviously, they lost the game over in the second leg. But they're a better side than Huddersfield, and I expect them to go through.
Concern, though, Craig, is they looked nervous yesterday, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. And Robbo's right. It was an edgy game. They did look nervous. Sheffield United, who the onus really was in them from the 2-1 defeat at Bramall Lane, they played really well for long periods, dominated the game early on. Second half was one-way traffic for a long period, particularly after they got the goal after half-time. And I think it's understandable, Dan. It's been 23 years. Obviously, none of these players have been involved for that period of time, but 23 years as a club since being in the Premier League. And I think they felt that at the City Ground last night. You could sort of feel the tension in the players' performance. They hit a lot of long balls. Yeah, they had a threat on the counter-attack, particularly with Brennan Johnson and Surridge. But it was a nervy evening. And I think the thing from Stevie Cooper is, look, we didn't play well. We know we can play better. But if we do play like that at Wembley, and it'll be another test of the nerves, then they are going to give Huddersfield an opportunity because, as Stewart said, they are the better side for us, but they're going to have to put their passing game together a bit better than they did against this Sheffield United side.
Huddersfield obviously have been in the Premier League more recently than Forest, Robert, by quite a distance. Does that make any difference?
I don't think it does. I think they've had a couple of poor seasons. They were expected to be down in the relegation zone come this point of the season, but they've played well. I think their confidence is high. It was a good performance against Luton. And going back to Craig's point, the game will be a totally different game at Wembley. Michael Oliver refereed that game last night as if it was being played in the 80s. Players were able to crash into each other. There was no real passing in the game because every time there was a bit of momentum through passing, someone would crash into another tackle. Stevie Cook should have been sent off for one of the tackles that he made. So the game will be a much slower game at Wembley, and I think because of that, Nottingham Forest will be able to play their passing game, and they've got some very good technical players.
Mo saying that Forest obviously favourites to go into the Premier League, Craig. Does that almost benefit Huddersfield Town? They can play with a leash off. Come on, you're the underdogs. Go out there. No one's expecting anything from you. Well,
they are. Their fans and their towns expecting them to be back in the Premier League, so they're in the playoffs now. It doesn't matter, if you were like Forest, who lost 6 out of the first 7, or Sunderland many, many years ago, who I think were in the bottom 3 when Roy Keane took over and went on an amazing run. So, there is opportunities in this division. I just don't know. I obviously have seen more of Forest than I have of Huddersfield, having lived in that area for many years. I just don't know how Huddersfield players will handle the nerves. Obviously, it's going to be such a huge game for both, but I do know Forest can play a lot better than they did last night. And I do know they've got a big threat up front, obviously, with Surridge. And particularly, again, I mentioned Brennan Johnson. So Forest do have a threat. They'll play with a back 3. They're pretty solid at the back. But they can pass it better, Dan, than they did. And I'm just thinking, really, if Forest get up, how all those players they're going to have to sign and all that money they're going to have to give them, I could put an extra couple of $100,000 on my house in Nottingham and sell it. It's going to be great. Fantastic.
And there we are.
Of course, there we are. That's it. We got there in the end. That game, of course, live.
This is all about selling houses.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.